Today we continue with our study. We're going to chapter 5 of SD 41. In other words, SD 41.5, the Yoga Natta Patipada Sutta, the discourse on the twin paths. So here, this reference is A 4.170. The short name is Yoga Natta Sutta, the twin. Actually, there's only one path, but here it's like you have a few lanes, if you like. Right? Here, the twin refers to samatha, vipassana. Two methods, samatha, vipassana. In previous studies of other suttas, in this volume, right, we look at samatha, vipassana as two wings of a bird. Right? For a bird to fly, the bird needs to flap both wings. So in our meditation, for our meditation to really progress, in other words, in order to transform ourselves, to be happy, if not to be free from suffering, we have to balance our practice of samatha and vipassana. So very quickly, let us have a recap of what samatha vipassana are. Samatha means calmness, mental calmness. We have to calm our body and mind down, then focus our mind, keep our mind very still. Like when we get some muddy water from the river, we put in a glass jug and we leave it standing very still so that all the still will settle. So that stillness is to calm our body, to calm our minds. So when we begin our meditation, we find a comfortable place, a comfortable posture, and we sit down as comfortably as we can so that our bodies relax, and then when we are in the right position, we can just forget about the body so that we focus directly, fully on our mind. So when the body and mind become very calm, very peaceful, it also becomes very clear. So once we have that sense of clarity, and this happens at the end of the meditation, then we go on to the second practice, that is vipassana. Okay? One more thing which is helpful to know is that we don't have to get very deep focus. Not everybody can get dhyana or jhana. So don't worry too much about jhana. Sometimes people will talk a lot about jhana, but not everybody can attain it. Sometimes even the speaker themselves cannot attain it. But the suttas, of course, are full of descriptions of the early monks, the great saints, who are able to meditate and get into deep states of jhana. That's because they are fully dedicated to the monastic life. They keep to the rules, they live as very good monks, pure heart, pure minds, pure bodies. But for lay people, we indulge in the pleasures of the senses. In other words, we are very body focused. Of course, there is still a chance for us to awaken in this life itself. But this is a slightly different way. In other words, you don't need to get into deep meditation, but try your best to get some calmness, some focus, especially based on a morally virtuous life. In other words, trying our best to keep the 5 precepts. Plus the practice of loving kindness, perception of impermanence. Loving kindness helps to bring joy into our life. The perception of impermanence is the vipassana practice, if you like. It brings us that sense of awareness of what really our body is, what really the existence around us is, impermanence. So once we get a sense of calmness in our daily life, we get a sense of peace in our daily life. We can even sit for just 5 minutes, 10 minutes, sometimes longer, it's up to you. Once you sit, you feel very peaceful without forcing yourself. but the environment is excellent as much as possible, sitting at the right time, choosing a good time, a good place to meditate. Then when you come out of your meditation, reflect on the peacefulness, whatever comes to mind when you come out of your meditation. Maybe you see things around you where you're meditating, you look at the trees, the park, you look at the ground, you see insects, or you see people. Sometimes you see people, you've been going to this place to meditate, you find how people have grown old, people have changed, people get sick, people look happy, people look unhappy, and so on. So notice all these changes and just reflect on the impermanence of it all. Reflect everything as impermanent. So in other words, your memory, your mindfulness connects all this observation, and you begin to see this underlying pattern of impermanence. So when you reflect in that way, that is vipassana already. Right? So that's the second part of the meditation. In fact, in this sutta, 4 methods are given. Okay, let's look at what the 4 methods are. The sutta is very short, so we'll go straight into it and then I'll explain in some detail. Look at page 73, the discourse on the twin paths, A 4.170. Thus have I heard. At one time, the Venerable Ananda was staying in Gosita's monastery near Kosambi. So here it is Ananda who's teaching the sutta, and is living in quite a distance from the Buddha land, if you like, the western end, Kosambi. There the Venerable Ananda addressed the monks thus, Avuso bhikshus. Avuso, the monks answered the Venerable Ananda in assent. The Venerable Ananda said this, Avuso, whichever a monk or nun declares before me that he or she has attained arahathood, all of them have done so by the 4 paths, by one or other amongst them. What are the 4? Right? Now, from this, from the wordings here, from the narrative here, we have a very good idea that Ananda is already an arahat. Because Ananda is saying, whoever comes to me and claims to be an arahat, so obviously he must have been an arahat himself. So that means the sutta is a record of Ananda's teaching after the Buddha has passed away. So, and moreover, the word avuso is used here. Right? So these are some clues we have. Moreover, there's no mention of the Buddha at all. So Ananda says, okay, what are the 4 paths? Number 1, here also a monk cultivates calm first, then insight. In other words, insight preceded by calm. That is, we translate technically from the Pali. While he thus cultivates insight preceded by calm, the path arises in him. Okay, here path is not the usual technical term meaning the supramundane path. Here is some kind of focus. At best it will be streamlining, if you like. But it's just, in other words, he gets some kind of focus, calmness. Then, next line says, then he pursues, cultivates and develops that path, or that way. And while he does so, the mental fetters are abandoned and the latent tendencies are destroyed. Okay? So, the fetters, of course, first of all, the mental fetters have to be overcome so that the person gets some level of mental stillness. When the latent tendencies are destroyed, then the person, if all the latent tendencies are destroyed, then of course the person becomes an arahat. Now I won't go into the technical details of mental fetters and latent tendencies. They're all in the notes if you want to look at them. And we'll be doing this separately another time. So this is the first method. The first method is calm first, followed by insight. Or if you translate the Pali, it will be insight preceded by calm. You can see the note 42 there. It says samatha pupangamang vipassanam. Samatha pupangamang vipassanam. And then the second one is 4.1. Furthermore, Avuso, a man cultivates insight first, then calm. Calm preceded by insight. Okay. So here we have vipassana, pupangaman, samatha. While he thus cultivates calm preceded by insight, the path arises in him. Then he pursues, cultivates, and develops the path. And while he does so, the mental fetters are abandoned, the latent tendencies are destroyed. So the third method, furthermore, Avuso, a monk cultivates both calm and insight together. In other words, calm and insight coupled together. And while he does, cultivates calm and insight coupled together, the path arises in him. Then he pursues, cultivates, and develops the path. So notice there is still some kind of practice going on, and this may take some time, not just a sudden or short moment. Of course, they may happen, but there's no time limit here. The last one is very, very different. Okay? Furthermore, also, a monk's mind is seized by dharma restlessness. This is a very interesting word. Many of us often hear. Dharmudacha. Dharma plus udacha. Dharmudacha. Dharma restlessness. We will look into the details in a moment. But there comes a time when his mind is internally steadied, composed, unified, and concentrated. Then the path arises in him. And while it does so, the fetters are abandoned and the latent tendencies are destroyed. So in the last part here, as he meditates, some thoughts of Dharma arises. What does Dharma mean? Dharma can mean mental states, certain mental states arise in him. It can also mean certain thoughts about Dharma, or thoughts about something in his life. Okay? So let's just keep it that way for a moment, right? So these thoughts kind of distract him. You know, these are good thoughts, they're not bad thoughts, okay? They distract him, but then as he meditates, everything settles down. Then he clears away the fetters, the latent tendency are overcome, and then he attains true meaning or up to arahat. Right? Also, whichever monk or nun declares before me that he or she has attained arahathood, they all have done this by these four paths, by one or other amongst them. Of course, Ananda is talking about arahathood. That's why the word destruction of all the latent tendencies is mentioned. Now let's look at the details of all these four kinds of practices. Now the first practice is calmness first, and then insight. I think this is a very common practice, right? Most of us probably would start this way. We learn to be peaceful, we calm our body and mind first by sitting comfortably. Of course, the commentaries go on to talk about different kinds of concentration. They talk about, for example, excess concentration. In other words, this concentration is kind of it's just before you go into full samadhi. Yeah? The mind is at peace, and then you go on, you come out of it. You can go deeper if you want, but as long as you have some level of calmness, samadhi, you stay as long as you can. Even if you cannot get a full samadhi, you feel very calm. Sometimes even a simple stillness of the mind, you feel quite joyful, quite peaceful, especially if the place is very peaceful. Even if there's sounds, natural sounds of birds or insects or wind or water, they still don't trouble us. Because after a while, all those sounds, they go into the background of our minds. Then when you feel very peaceful, and then you're quite happy with it, or you feel it's time to end the meditation, your body will tell you that. So just respect your body, respect your mind. You know when to come out the meditation. And then just sit quietly. In other words, learn to just take it easy, as calm as it goes, no rush. And then when you finish your the main part of the meditation, you come out of it, then you just sit quietly. Whatever comes to mind, you reflect. Right? Maybe you felt very joyful. Then you say, okay, this joy is mind-made, but this mind-made is impermanent. Even this joy, which is so wonderful, is impermanent. Maybe you're sitting down and you're reflecting on your body. You say, oh, this pain comes and goes, comes and goes. It's impermanent. And so on. So this is how you reflect on the vipassana, in other words, the second part of the practice, vipassana. You know? So notice it's not exactly a separate meditation, it is an aspect of this one sitting. Of course, if you like, you can go through the three characteristics. Right? The suttas often mention the three characteristics. And the Patisambhida Magga, volume 2, page 93, mention three characteristics when you practice vipassana. So this is where you can, okay, let's say again, you take this very happy state of mind you have experienced, you say, okay, it is mind-made, so it is impermanent. What is impermanent is not satisfactory. What does that mean? Not satisfactory. In a sense, you wish, well, it's wonderful if I can get it again. It's wonderful if I can feel this all the time. But then your body feels tired, you have to take your food, you have to talk to people, especially as a layperson, right? So you find this joy is not satisfactory. It's it's impermanent. What is impermanent and unsatisfactory is not self or non-self. It's not the self, if you like, meaning you cannot find anything, any abiding entity, anything permanent or eternal in it. It comes, it goes. Just like lightning, like electricity, like the sound you are hearing right now. Everything is moving, changing, becoming other. So in this kind of situation, everything is so dynamic, everything is a process. There is no permanent entity, nothing unchanging. So there you have three characteristics. Anicca, impermanence; dukkha, unsatisfactoriness or suffering; anatta, non-self. So you can apply the three characteristics if you like, or usually impermanence is the easiest. Sometimes you may find you can apply the characteristic of unsatisfactoriness. But non-self is quite difficult. Occasionally you may get some kind of insight into it too. So just open up your heart and just remember these three characteristics. Of course, this is where the suttas come in. You study the suttas, you begin to reflect more on these three characteristics, so you have a better idea how to identify the three characteristics. That's why the suttas are very useful in that sense. So that's the first method. Notice when you say first method, it actually refers to both satipatthana, as both samatha and vipassana. Right? That's why it's called twin practice. Now the second method is called vipassana pubbangama samatha. Insight first, then calm. So in this case, let's say you are a beginner, or you are more inclined towards reading suttas, you are more of an intellectual kind of person, uh, you're not so inclined to meditation at this stage. So what you do is you read the suttas, because when you read suttas, you feel a sense of peace. That's what we read suttas for at first. Yeah? So you listen to teachings, try to put them together, and then at the same time look around you, just reflect yourself, reflect around you, the nature of things. So in other words, you have a good idea what impermanence is like. And according to the Chakku, Anicca Chakku Sutta, S25.1, if you remember, you can do this through faith. You can say, okay, I believe in all this. Because it's not difficult to believe in impermanence. Or you have done your research and study, so you're examining impermanence through wisdom, either faculty, faith or wisdom. You just go on reflecting this way. Then as you reflect, you just sit quietly, and then you go into your meditation to calmness, like that. Okay? In other words, you let go of the thoughts, let go of all the distractions, because when you start reflecting everything is impermanent, you say, well, there's nothing else for me to think about, because they're all the same, so let me just forget about all my senses, let go of all my thoughts, let me just be at peace with myself. And then you go into this calm stage. So this is the second method. Okay. Of course, you don't have to like strictly follow one method alone. You can switch around in different sittings depending on your feeling, your tendency, and how you feel like practicing. Keep it natural, in other words. Now, the third method is both calm and insight together. Samatha, vipassana, yoga, nada. Yoga and yoga are very close together. In other words, you combine them, you join them together. Now here, calm and how to practice together. This is very interesting, because there are some people have the opinion that you can actually combine calm and insight happening at the same time. But frankly, I find it hard to imagine how calm and insight can occur at the same time, because understanding the mind moving so fast, and you more or less have one thought at a time, so to speak. So you can't have two thoughts at the same time, samatha vipassana at the same time. Some suttas seem to give us this idea, but always remember, they happen at such rapid succession, so they appear to be together, but they are not so. Okay, that's one. Anyway, the explanation for this third method is this. We start with calmness first. We get into a calm state. You feel very still, very peaceful. Then ideally this person gets into first jhana. Then it comes out first jhana, reflects on the three characteristics. And then it feels very peaceful. Of course, again, the time is up to you. Okay? It can be a few hours to a few days even. And then you go back to your meditation, and this time attain second jhana. And come out of the jhana, go on to reflect on the three characteristics again. So back and forth like that. So this is called a twin practice, one after the other. Okay? Of course, if you practice in this way, you find that there's a lot of connection with the path also, the Eightfold Path. But it's not I won't go to the details here, you can look up in the notes on page 66, 67. The important thing here is to maintain the sequence. Samatha, vipassana, like that. Now what's interesting here is that number 4, the fourth one, is where it says the mind seized by mental restlessness or dharma restlessness, if you like. Eh? You notice that there are thoughts going on here. Okay? Now notice that as long as there are thoughts going on, you are not really focused, definitely not in jhana. So it is very clear, therefore, no thinking occurs in jhana. Of course, you may say, oh, what about the first two of the 5 jhana factors in the first jhana? The first 2 jhana factors are vitakka, vichara, initial application and sustained application. Are they thoughts? Well, they are in a sense thoughts, but we don't translate them as thoughts. In daily life, we take vitakka as thinking and vichara as pondering. Vichara is like going into more details. Chara, meaning to move around. So in normal waking life, we can say vitakka vichara refers to thinking and pondering, thinking and deep thinking, sustained thinking. In meditation, we usually translate it as initial application and sustained application. It's not a perfect translation, but that's the way translations go. The important thing is you understand the meaning and the practice behind this. So here, vitakka vichara, there's a sense of this mental awareness. The mind knows what's going on, but that's the minimal thought, just enough for the mind, for example, is watching the breath, the mind is watching the breath, but there's no thinking going on. Okay? And then the mind goes away, we bring the mind back to the breath like that. Okay? So that's called vitakka vichara. Now, let me digress a little bit about talking during meditation. I mean, subverbalization, saying words in meditation. These words are used for beginners to help clear away distractions on the simple beginning level, right? Because it's very rare, but impossible usually, for someone who's a first timer to sit down at once, wow, get into a deep state of meditation, right? I mean, if that happens, probably this person has got some very deep experience in a past life. So normally when you sit, you find, wow, there's a lot of thoughts going on. So different teachers through the ages have devised different methods like counting and using labeling, things like that, to push away these thoughts. So, of course, many of these methods are based on the Anapanasati Sutta itself, in case of breath meditation. So breath meditation, for example, we start by counting the breath, right? In, out 1, in, out 2, up to 5, or up to 10, right? This counting is a very active event in our minds. So this counting pushes away other distractions, right? So in other words, our mind is focused on the counting so that we don't allow other distractions to fill our minds. Here, the counting is not, you don't have to worry about the numbers. It's just the action itself, to keep the mind on the breath, right? Of course, there are people who do not like numbers. It's very interesting. Usually these are people who deal with numbers in their daily life, like accountants, for example, maybe a scientist or mathematician. So you might find accounting really troubling, all the numbers start coming in, flooding into your heads. And if that's the case, then you don't have to use it. But this is a method introduced by probably Buddha Gosha, I think. So, but there are those who find that counting really helps. So the counting helps, use it. If not, you go straight into the second stage where you watch the breath as in and out. And usually we watch the end of the breath. We breathe in and we say in, and then we breathe out, we say out like that. Okay? So that's the easiest point to watch usually. So when you watch in and out, you have this word in your mind, you say in, out, you focus on this gentle word in, gentle word out, right? And from experience, many meditators have found it's very important to be happy to meditate. If you are sad or angry, you find it's practically impossible to meditate. But you can make yourself happy. You can make it a habit. Smiling in your heart, or even smiling, just smiling if you like. So when you meditate, you feel good, you're smiling. And for some people, when they smile, they suddenly say, wow, this really works. Because before this, I didn't smile and I had so much difficulty meditating. Just smile in your heart. If you have difficulty meditating, just do the smiling meditation. Right? And you might find that helps to some extent. And meditation is a lifelong practice. So take your time, try to experiment which methods the Buddha thought or what's found in the teachings that will help you. So as you watch your breath in, you just smile at it as your breath slows down. And then you find after a while, when you feel very peaceful, the counting definitely sounds very loud and distracting. Then you know you've got to stop the counting. Or you find in, out, very loud, distracting. You don't need to say in, out anymore, because this stillness has arisen in you. So just be very still, very calm, gently smiling occasionally if you like. When do you smile in this case? When you notice some kind of distraction is going to come, you can sense it, then just smile at the distraction. Let it go, in other words. Otherwise, just enjoy the peacefulness. If you really practice meditation, you will know what this means. Because when the joy comes, you just don't feel like doing anything. You just want to immerse yourself in this wonderful peace and joy. Okay? So that is the calmness aspect. So in other words, no thoughts occur or should occur when you're meditating. Any thoughts that occur will be distracting. You have to deal with these thoughts. Some thoughts may flash across your mind, yes, but it is towards the end of this joyful state. When you're very joyful, pure joy, the thoughts do not trouble you. And this is very clear, as I've said before. Taking some simple daily examples. Just remember one of those occasions when you won a prize or you got something you really wanted and you felt really happy. You're so happy, when someone asks you to describe it, you say, I don't know. That's the best answer, I don't know. You can't describe it because it's a feeling. Right? Then later on, of course, you can write poems about it, write stories about it, write reflections about it, maybe. Yeah? But when it is happening, it's just joy, peace. On a lower level, yes, maybe the thoughts and the joy combined, that's on a lower level. Lower level means what? The five senses are involved. Seeing, you see something, you feel very joyful. You see something beautiful, you feel very joyful. You hear music so beautiful, you feel very joyful. There's something very interesting about music. When you listen to it, when you feel very joyful, you in fact forget about the music. You become the music. You flow with all that wonderful feeling. And you're oblivious to what's going on around you. Right? We have some comedy stories you see on the TV or movie. This person is so involved in enjoying some music or watching this interesting TV show. There's a robber going behind you, stealing everything in the house. That's not even aware of it, right? So there's no thought going on. See? So the person is totally focused on this wonderful feeling. All right. So the five senses, in a sense, make us think. So that's why in meditation, all the five senses shut down. All the five senses shut down in jhana. And the mind also, as we know it, shuts down in jhana. In other words, the thoughts do not arise. The thoughts arise through the five physical sense organs, sense faculties, and also through the mind. Right? So that mind that thinks also is at rest, so to speak. But this mind that is conscious is joyful. That's another way of looking at it. So, what about Dhamma Udacha or Dhammudacha? Now, if you study the Dharma, study the suttas, sooner or later you will feel, wow, this is wonderful, I like this sutta, or I like this teaching. But then when you look at the real world, you find many people don't practice it. You find a lot of things are wrong. So you feel a little trouble, unhappy. That's one sort of udacha that can trouble you in meditation. For example, you may say, well, if only all these people stop breaking the precepts, if only they stop being angry, they stop being violent, they be kind to one another. Right? That's one kind of thought. Udacha, restlessness that can trouble us. That's why we need a lot of loving kindness. Right? Loving kindness to push away this kind of thoughts. On the other hand, you can also have very positive kind of udacha, right? The famous story of Pingia. Pingia was a very old disciple of Bavari, and he's listening to the Buddha's teaching, and he couldn't really keep up because he was very old, his body is very weak and painful. He tries best, and then finally he got it. He was on the way to be an arahant, but then he was thinking of his teacher. Said, oh, if only my teacher was here, it would really benefit, Because of that distraction, he's thinking of his teacher with fondness and love and respect. He only attained non-return. Non-return. Right? So, but of course, it's very good, But if he had let go of all the thoughts of attachment to his teacher, he could have become arahant. So that's the udacha that held him back. Or sometimes it's called upadi, in the sense of there's this remnants, okay, of attachment, of clinging there, right? So, and you find in the Satipatthana Sutta, for example, towards the end of the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha says, if you practice this Satipatthana in this way for 7 days, right, or for 7 years, or even as short as 7 days, one of two fruits will come to you. One is, of course, arhathood. But if there is any trace of clinging, then the word upadi, then you will gain non-return. Of course, these are very high levels. This is the package deal for the celibate lifestyle for the monks and nuns. Jhana is involved. So udacha here refers to some kind of thoughts, even good thoughts, of attachment clinging to something or someone. So that will kind of prevent you from attaining arhathood, but you get no return anyway on that high level. On the lower level, you may get dhamma udacha also, but they're not so significant, in other words. If you notice this kind of destruction coming, you just do loving kindness. You build up your loving kindness, or reflect on all these thoughts as being impermanent, and you shouldn't be troubled by them, in other words. In a sense, having this kind of restlessness is good, in a sense, because it shows that we are concerned Buddhists. We want to change things. So this way, when you come out of your meditation, apply your wisdom. How can I use all these things I've learned to help others understand the Dhamma better, become happier people? Then maybe you get a small group together, get people to work together, and try to help others, inspire them, make them happy, so that they want to meditate, they want to be better people. So this is where, in a sense, we have no choice, but we have to teach people, because if we don't, you won't have a happy society. People seems alright, especially in Singapore, for example, because everybody wakes up in the day, in the morning, and we go making money. So all we do is make money, right? And as long as we make money, we're working, making money, we don't think about problems. We don't think about death. But then when someone dies, then you find all the ugly side come to the surface. The relatives will say, we want this kind of chanting, that kind of chanting, right? And you find that not many people like this chanting anyway. They're done by the money monks, There is a simple early Buddhist style of reflection and performing last rites, but not many people are keen on this. But it's the most meaningful way of sending off those who have passed away. So you need this kind of Dhamma background, Dhamma inspiration, Dhamma learning, in order to appreciate this kind of proper ceremony for those who have passed away. So this is an example where we can use our experience of peace and happiness to inspire others to learn the suttas and explain to them in daily life how to use this happiness and understanding and to simplify things in our life so that we're not caught up with rituals and vows, in other words. A lot of people fear, their fear and doubts that if they don't perform the right rituals, then this dead person might not be happy. That's just superstition. But there's something worse than superstition. Some people are afraid that their peers and their neighbors, their relatives will criticize them. So they want to do everything correctly, so to speak. So, in other words, we live in a society that is so controlled by others. Now, in the newspapers recently, you have this ferry in Korea which sank, killing a few hundred people, young people, students, right? And one of the things they were speculating, probably actually is quite true in a sense, was that many of the students, they were waiting for instructions from the teachers or seniors. And someone even said that it was the naughty boys, naughty kids who survived. It's because they didn't wait for instructions. They, when they saw danger, they at once jumped to the boat, lifeboat, or if they could strong and they could swim, they jumped to the water. So their lives were saved because they were intelligent. They knew what to do. They're not ritualized beings or people. See? Whereas the others, it is said that because the South Koreans, or Koreans generally, they have been so ingrained with Confucianism, especially during the Joseon period, that they always learn to respect their teachers and seniors, and they only do things following instruction of their seniors. So there you have ritualism. It may cost lives, for example. So this is where mindfulness is very important. We build this mindfulness, and this mindfulness is also proactive in daily life. When you're mindful, you look around, you know what's wrong. You look at something, you know what's wrong. If you're an engineer or you have creative mind, you begin, your senses become more sensitive, more clear. You have a better idea what to do with your mind. It's not that when you become, if you are mindful or meditative, you become like a stone, you're not reactive. I mean, you don't respond or react to your surrounding. Not at all, it's the opposite. You're more sensitive, and in that way you become more intelligent because you have better attention span and so on. So mindfulness has a very wonderful effect on our daily life. It should, otherwise you have to examine what kind of meditation you're doing. You've got to, maybe loving kindness is missing, or maybe breath meditation is missing. You've got to balance the two practices. And of course, most important of all, you have to balance samatha, calmness, and vipassana, which is wisdom. Now, having said that, there are also occasions when, outside of meditation, when you can get this feeling of calmness, even insight arising. You must be prepared for these moments. The Vimuttayatana Sutta, A526, mentioned 5 occasions when wisdom can arise in us. Vipassana, for example, can arise in us. Number 1, when listening to the Dharma taught by a teacher or a fellow practitioner. Notice here, it's especially mentioned by a teacher or fellow practitioner, not by simply anyone. There are lots of Buddhist speakers nowadays. Many of them have not been properly trained in meditation. They just maybe finished some kind of academic course, and lots of academic courses in Buddhism. Academic courses mean book learning, without any experience and taste of the Dharma. There's a big difference between someone who only book learned Buddhism and someone who meditates and has tasted the Dharma. Of course, we may get wonderful feelings from either speaker, but there may be other reasons. Past karma, we like this person, maybe this person is a good speaker, very entertaining, which also can be helpful if we sustain our interest in the Dharma and continue to practice. But if you get someone who's really a true practitioner and he talks Dharma and you listen very carefully, and you have this wonderful feeling at that time, you get very inspired. Okay, this is the meaning of listening to a Dharma taught by the teacher. The teacher actually here refers to the Buddha. Of course, we don't have the Buddha today, but someone like the Buddha, if you like. And someone teaching the suttas will be kind of going back to the Buddha. Number two, when you're teaching the Dharma yourself in detail, again here, not just giving a happy talk just to make people laugh, but a really wonderful sutta. You're going to detail, you're carefully prepared for this talk, and you take your time to carefully teach this sutta, and you have this wonderful, appreciative audience. So as you're teaching this sutta or this Dharma, and even as you talk, you suddenly realize, wow, yes, this is a wonderful realization you got. You begin to connect the pieces. This is a second way you can have insight into the Dharma. Now the third one is while reciting the Dharma in detail to others that we have learned and mastered in theory, right? Here, even when we are chanting the suttas, okay? Here I must say we should restrict to suttas, not the Abhidharma chanting, but suttas. You recite the suttas and you also know the meaning, right? So that means you must know some Pali. Of course you can recite in good English if you like. Yes, there are chanting done in English too. For example, take a simple chant like Iti Piso Bhagava. As you recite this verse, if you know the meaning, then you reflect. And you have heard the stories, you have heard the nature of the Buddha and so on. And all this reflection begin to connect, right? So vipassana, in other words, is seeing these interconnections of realities all around you. So mindful reflection can also be a doorway to, mindful reciting can be a doorway to realization with insight. Or number four, you're reflecting on the Dharma that you have learned, right? That's why sometimes I write these happy reflections on the Dharma. So as you're reading the sutta, suttas are much better. You read the sutta, your favorite passage or favorite sutta, you just reflect calmly. Reflect, that means you immerse yourself into the sutta. Right? Feel the sutta, don't just think, you feel the sutta. You can also be inspired with insight. And number five, of course, is meditating. By properly grasping the samadhi sign and reflecting on it with wisdom. Right? So when you get focus, some level of focus, samadhi sign means your breath, or this joy of loving kindness. Hold this joy as long as you can. After you come out of it, reflect on the impermanence of it. So these are the 5 ways that you can attain vipassana, or insight, or even liberation in daily life. So there you are. You find there are many other details that you can go into, like examples of people who got enlightened by just listening and so on. They are listed here on page 69. You can look at them. So the twin practice here, in other words, if you practice samatha, vipassana, you balance it and you reflect on impermanence, you can at least attain stream winning in this life itself. The key teaching there is impermanence. Do not neglect impermanence. And that, in fact, is the vipassana part of the practice. So when you build this kind of energy in this life, then in the next life you become a better meditator. They might be able to get jhana and so on. So that's how stream winners upgrade themselves to non-returners, to arahats. So with that, we come to the end of the sutta. So let us now spend a short moment reflecting. Whenever we are gathered together to study the sutta, we are given a new opportunity, a new chance to look within ourselves so that we can take another step towards the path to liberation. And the suttas are records of the Buddha's own liberation, the liberation of the early arahats and other monks. So reflecting on the suttas is a way of meditating, if you like, for those people who have difficulty sitting in long meditation. And always reflect on something that interests you and link them all together. And then somehow connected with impermanence. Reflecting in this way, you habitually reflect on impermanence, and this will bring you in stream winning in this life itself. By the power of all this goodness we have done in our faith in the three jewels, our generosity, our keeping the precepts, and doing any other good works, may we attain peace and happiness, good health, success, and every blessing in this life itself. Above all, may we be able to meditate well, so that we are at peace with ourselves and will be able to attain at least stream winning in this life itself. May we aspire to the attaining of the fruit of stream winning in this life itself. In this moment of peace, too, let us send out our loving kindness to all those people who have taught us the Dharma, people who have been kind to us. May they be well, may they be happy. And also to our loved ones, that they may see the Dharma and awaken to true happiness. And also those whom the Dharma have not touched, may they see the Dharma and realize the liberating truth. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.